What if I told you that the very first story you learned in Sunday school was a lie? We have all been taught that Adam and Eve were the first couple in human history. We are told that Eve was the first woman, created from Adam's rib to be his helper. But what if there was a missing page in that story? What if I told you that before Eve, there was another woman in the Garden of Eden, a woman who was not created to serve, but to rule? This is the banned story of Lilith, the mother of all giants. To understand this mystery, we do not need to look at secret scrolls just yet. We only need to look at the Bible itself. There is a massive contradiction right in the opening pages of Genesis. It is a logical glitch that most people read right over, but today we are going to stop and examine the evidence. Open your Bible to Genesis chapter 1, verse 27. The text says clearly, "So God created mankind in his own image. In the image of God he created them. Male and female he created them." Did you catch the detail? In chapter 1, the man and the woman are created at the exact same time. They are both created from the dust of the earth. They stand together as equals. But then, turn the page to Genesis chapter 2. The story changes completely. Suddenly, Adam is alone in the garden. He is lonely and searching for a partner. God then puts him into a deep sleep, takes a rib from his side, and constructs Eve. Here is the question that breaks the timeline. If Eve was created in chapter 2 from a rib, then who was the female created in chapter 1 from the dust? The timeline does not add up. The woman in chapter 1 has vanished. She is a missing person in the most important story of humanity. For centuries, scholars have tried to explain this away, but the ancient rabbis knew the truth. They knew that the woman in chapter 1 was not Eve. Her name was Lilith. Lilith was not made from Adam's body. She was made from the same soil as Adam. This meant she was not his subordinate. She was his equal. But you will not find her name in your modern Bible. Someone decided to erase her. Someone decided that her story was too dangerous for you to know. Why are the religious gatekeepers so afraid of this name? What did she do that was so terrible that she had to be scrubbed from history? We are about to reopen the oldest cold case in human existence. We are going to find out why the first woman became the mother of monsters. We have established that there is a missing person in the book of Genesis. But to understand why she was erased, we must understand the crime she committed. Most people believe that the first sin in the Garden of Eden was eating a piece of forbidden fruit. They are wrong. The first sin was not about food. It was about power. It was an open rebellion against the hierarchy of creation, and it did not start with a snake. It started with a wife who refused to kneel.
To find the details of this event, we have to look outside the standard Bible. We must open the criminal file known as the Alphabet of Ben Sira. This is an ancient text from the medieval period, but it preserves traditions that are much, much older. In this text, we find the transcript of the very first argument in human history. It was not a petty domestic dispute. It was a clash of ideologies. The text describes a moment of intimacy between Adam and Lilith that turned into a war for dominance. The ancient writers were very specific about the nature of this conflict. Adam demanded that Lilith lie beneath him during intercourse. He wanted her in the submissive position. To Adam, this was the natural order. He was the man, and he believed he was the master of the garden. But Lilith was not Eve. She did not have the DNA of a helper. She stopped him. She looked him in the eye and asked a question that would shatter the peace of Eden forever. She said, "Why should I lie beneath you? I was also made from dust, and therefore I am your equal." This is the critical moment. Lilith used the logic of Genesis chapter 1 against Adam. She argued that since they were both created from the same raw material at the same time, There was no hierarchy. She was not flesh of his flesh. She was dust of his dust. Adam did not accept this. He tried to force her into submission. He tried to assert his authority through physical dominance. In that moment, the Garden of Eden stopped being a paradise for Lilith. It became a prison. She realized that the cost of staying in the garden was her freedom. She had to make a choice. She could submit and become a slave, or she could rebel and become a monster. Lilith chose the monster. According to the ancient texts, Lilith did something forbidden. She possessed secret knowledge. She knew the ineffable name of God. This is the sacred, unpronounceable name that holds the power of creation itself. In Jewish mysticism, knowing this name gives one the power to alter reality. Lilith spoke the holy name. She used it like a key to unlock the gates of the garden. The text says she instantly grew wings and flew away into the air. She abandoned Adam. She abandoned God. She abandoned the safety of paradise. This is why she is the true first rebel. We often think of Lucifer as the first being to say, "I will not serve." But Lilith's rebellion feels more personal. She was not trying to take God's throne. She just wanted ownership of her own body and her own destiny. Adam was furious. He immediately complained to God. He said, "Master of the universe, the woman you gave me has fled." This is a crucial detail. Adam played the victim. He wanted his property back. This is why later, when God created Eve, he did not use dust. He used Adam's rib. He ensured that the second model would be biologically linked to Adam, programmed to follow his lead. Eve was the correction. Lilith was the failed prototype.
Psychologically, this establishes Lilith as the ultimate figure of the dark feminine. Eve represents the light, the mother, the submissive wife who keeps the family together. Lilith represents the night, the seductress, the independent force that destroys the family structure. She is the chaotic storm that refuses to be contained. But where did she go? When she flew out of the garden, she did not just disappear into the void. She went looking for allies. She went to a place where the presence of God was weak and the presence of evil was strong. She was about to meet the only other entity in the universe who hated the order of creation as much as she did. The investigation now moves from the Garden of Eden to the shores of the Red Sea. Lilith did not just run away to be alone. She ran away to build an army. Her flight took her to the desolate shores of the Red Sea. In the ancient world, before Moses ever parted these waters, the Red Sea was known as a place of spiritual filth. It was a no-man's land inhabited by lascivious spirits, desert demons, and the Zimim, strange, hairy creatures mentioned in Hebrew folklore. It was the perfect hiding place for a fugitive from Eden. But Lilith did not stay in hiding for long. She found a partner. The ancient texts tell us that she encountered the great archdemon, Samael. In demonology, Samael is often identified with Satan, the venom of God, or the blind god. He was the original adversary, a fallen prince roaming the earth. When Lilith and Samael met, it was a match made in hell. They became the dark mirror image of Adam and Eve. While Adam and Eve were created to fill the earth with human life, Lilith and Samael united to fill the earth with death. This is where the story turns into a biological horror. The Zohar and other mystical texts describe their union as obsessive and constant. Lilith turned the Red Sea into a factory of monsters. The numbers recorded in the legends are staggering. It is said that Lilith gave birth to 100 children every single day. Let that number sink in. 100 offspring every 24 hours. Obviously, these were not human babies.
They were the Lilim. They were demonic entities, spirits of confusion, and hybrid creatures that possessed supernatural strength and malice. Lilith was no longer just a woman made of dust. She had transformed into a mother of abominations. She became a gateway for evil to enter the physical world in mass quantities. Now we need to connect this to the bigger picture of the Bible. Many of you know the story of Genesis chapter 6, where the Watchers, the fallen angels, came down and mated with human women to create the Nephilim giants. But look at the timeline. Lilith's rebellion happened before the fall of the Watchers.
This leads to a terrifying hypothesis. Was Lilith the proof of concept? Did the fallen angels watch Lilith and Samael and realize that celestial beings could breed with terrestrial beings? Lilith proved that the genetic barrier could be broken. She was the pioneer of hybrid breeding. The Lilim she produced may have been the cousins or even the ancestors of the giants that would later roam the earth. She created the blueprint for the genetic corruption of mankind. God could not let this continue unchecked. The population of demons was exploding. The balance of the world was at risk. So the Creator dispatched a specialized task force to hunt her down. He sent 3 powerful angels, Senoi, Sensenoi, and Semangelof. These were not the gentle cherubs you see in paintings. These were divine enforcers. They tracked Lilith down to her lair by the Red Sea. They found her amidst her brood of monsters, wild and defiant. They delivered a simple ultimatum from God: return to Adam or face the consequences. Lilith looked at the angels and laughed. She asked them, "How can I return to Adam and live like a housewife after I have ruled as a queen alongside Samael?" She refused the order. The angels then pronounced her sentence. They told her that if she did not return, 100 of her own demonic children would die every day. They would be slaughtered just as fast as she could breed them. Most mothers would surrender to save their children. Lilith did not. She accepted the death of her offspring as the price of her freedom. Her heart had turned completely to stone. But she did not stop there. She made a counter-threat. She looked the 3 angels in the eye and declared war on the children of Adam. She swore a terrifying oath. She said, "I was created only to cause sickness to infants. If the child is male, I have dominion over him for 8 days after birth, and if female, for 20 days. She essentially told the police of heaven that she would become a serial killer of human babies. She would sneak into the tents and homes of Adam's descendants and steal the breath of their newborns. This was her revenge against the God who made her and the man who tried to control her. However, a deal was struck in that desolate place, a negotiation known as the Sea Pact. The angels could not kill Lilith, as she had become too powerful, but they could limit her. Lilith swore by the name of the living God that whenever she saw the names or the images of these 3 angels, Senoi, Sensenoi, and Semangelof, she would leave the child alone. She would pass over that house. This is the origin of one of the oldest protective traditions in history. For thousands of years, Jewish mothers have placed amulets with the names of these 3 angels over their babies' cribs. They weren't just following a superstition. They were enforcing a legal contract made at the Red Sea. They were protecting their children from the invisible woman who was erased from the Bible. But Lilith did not just target babies. As she evolved, her hunger grew. She began to target men. And this leads us to the one place in the Bible where her name actually appears, a verse that translators have tried to hide for centuries. The investigation now moves to the book of Isaiah. You might be thinking that this is just a Jewish fairy tale. You might be thinking that if this woman was so important, God would have mentioned her in the official scripture. The truth is, He did. She is there, hiding in plain sight. But the translators of your Bible did everything in their power to mask her identity. They turned a person into an animal to keep you in the dark. We're going to examine the evidence. Open your Bible to the book of Isaiah, chapter 34, verse 14. This is a prophecy about the judgment of Edom, a land that will be turned into a desolate wasteland for wild beasts. If you read the King James Version, it says, "The wild beasts of the desert shall also meet with the wild beasts of the island, and the satyr shall cry to his fellow. The screech owl also shall rest there, and find for herself a place of rest." Did you hear it? The screech owl. Now, let us look at the original Hebrew text. The word used there is Lilith. It is a proper noun. It is a name. It is not a bird. It is her. In the ancient Hebrew mind, Lilith was not a barn owl hooting in the night. She was a specific, terrifying entity. The translators knew this, but they could not allow a female demon to have a name in the Holy Book, so they changed Lilith to night creature, night monster, or screech owl. They reduced the queen of demons to a bird. But Isaiah knew exactly who he was talking about. He described her as finding a place of rest. This phrase is chilling. Lilith is a wandering spirit. She was banished from the garden, banished to the Red Sea, and now she wanders the desolate places of the earth, forever looking for a home she can never have. And when she cannot find rest in the desert, she comes into your home. This brings us to the darkest aspect of the Lilith profile, the succubus curse. Throughout history, men have reported a specific, terrifying phenomenon. They wake up in the middle of the night, but they cannot move. They are paralyzed. They feel a heavy weight pressing down on their chest, crushing the air out of their lungs. In folklore, this is called the old hag syndrome. But in demonology, this is the signature attack of Lilith. She is the original succubus. The word succubus comes from the Latin meaning to lie under. This is a twisted irony. Remember, she refused to lie under Adam in the garden, but now, as a demon, she comes in the night and forces herself upon men against their will.
But this is not about pleasure. This is a harvest. This is biological warfare. The ancient texts explain that Lilith visits men in their sleep to steal their seed. She induces nocturnal emissions to collect the genetic material of Adam's descendants. Why does she do this? She is building an army. Lilith uses the stolen seed to impregnate herself. But because she is a demon and the seed is human, the children born from this union are not normal. They are the spirit children. They are invisible entities that roam the earth. The Zohar warns that when a man dies, these invisible children will flock to his funeral, mourning him and claiming him as their father. They are the unwanted, unseen offspring of a stolen legacy. This reveals Lilith's ultimate strategy. She knows she cannot destroy Adam's lineage with a sword, so she corrupts it from the inside. She takes the potential life, the seed that could have become a human child, and twists it into a demonic force. She turns the life force of humanity against itself. This also connects to the tragedy of sudden infant death syndrome, or SIDS. For centuries, when a healthy baby died mysteriously in the night with no medical explanation, mothers whispered that Lilith had returned. Remember her vow at the Red Sea? She promised to take the lives of children. The medical term SIDS is modern, but the phenomenon is ancient. It is the night terror. So we have a woman who defied God, mated with the devil, and now hunts men and children from the shadows. She is a spiritual parasite. But the investigation does not end here. We have to ask a bigger question. If Lilith was active before the flood, and she was breeding hybrid monsters, did she play a role in the greatest conspiracy of the ancient world? Did she introduce the Watchers to the daughters of men? Was she the mastermind behind the era of the giants? The evidence suggests that Lilith was not just a participant, she was the architect. We have arrived at the most controversial theory in this investigation. We know Lilith is a rebel. We know she is a mother of demons. But does her influence stop there? Or was she the mastermind behind the catastrophic event that forced God to flood the entire earth? To answer this, we must look at the timeline of the pre-flood world. In Genesis chapter 6, we read that the sons of God, the Watchers, saw the daughters of men, that they were beautiful, and they took them as wives. This union produced the Nephilim, the giants who consumed the earth. But this raises a tactical question. The Watchers were celestial beings. They dwelt in the high heavens. What suddenly drew their eyes down to the dust of the earth? What triggered this mass defection? The standard answer is simple lust. But in a criminal investigation, we don't just look at the crime. We look for the enabler. We look for the person who unlocked the back door.
I present to you the ultimate hypothesis. Lilith was the architect of the Watcher invasion. She was the madam of the apocalypse. Think about the logic. Lilith hates Adam. She hates Eve. She hates their children. But she cannot kill them all. There are too many of them. So she comes up with a more sinister plan: genetic sabotage. If she cannot destroy the human race, she will pollute it. She will make the human bloodline so corrupt, so hybrid, that it is no longer human. She wants to ensure that the seed of the woman promised by God can never be born. But how does she do it? She needs powerful biological partners. She needs the Watchers. The Book of Enoch gives us a smoking gun. It tells us that before the Watchers mated with women, they taught them secrets. Azazel taught men to make swords, but he taught women something very specific: the beautifying of the eyelids, the use of makeup, jewelry, and stones. He taught them how to be seductive. Who is the master of seduction? Who is the original painted lady? It is Lilith. It is highly probable that Lilith, wandering the earth as a spirit of independence and power, influenced the daughters of Cain. She whispered to them. She taught them that they didn't have to be like Eve, modest and submissive. She taught them to be like her, bold, painted, and sexually aggressive. She weaponized their beauty. Lilith essentially groomed the women of the ancient world. She turned them into bait. She dressed them up to catch the eyes of the angels. When the Watchers looked down, they didn't just see human women. They saw reflections of Lilith. They saw the dark feminine manifesting in flesh, and they fell for it. They fell from grace straight into the trap Lilith had set. Therefore, while Lilith may not have physically given birth to Goliath, she is the godmother of the Nephilim. She brokered the unholy marriage between heaven and earth. The result was exactly what she wanted. The Nephilim giants rose up and dominated the earth. They devoured the fruit of the ground, and then they began to devour mankind. The lineage of Adam was pushed to the brink of extinction. The blood was mixed. The DNA was corrupted.
This was Lilith's greatest victory. She had turned God's creation into a zoo of monsters. She had proven her point. If I cannot rule the Garden of Eden, I will turn the earth into hell. She was the queen of the abyss, guiding the watchers to their doom and humanity to its destruction. And she succeeded. It took the great flood to wash away her handiwork. But here is the chilling reality. The flood destroyed the giants. It destroyed the bodies of the wicked. But spirits do not drown. Lilith survived the flood, and she is still here. The investigation concludes in the modern world. You need to see how she is operating today.
The floodwaters receded thousands of years ago, but the spirit of Lilith did not drown. She merely waited. She retreated into the shadows, lurking in the folklore and nightmares of humanity. But today, the shadows are receding. We are living in a unique time in history. For the first time since the days of Noah, Lilith is not being shunned. She is being welcomed back. Look around you. The Dark Mother is staging her grand return, and she is doing it in plain sight. In our modern culture, Lilith has been rebranded. She is no longer feared as a child-killing demon. She is celebrated as an icon of liberation. We see music festivals named after her. We see statues of winged women being erected in major cities, honoring the feminine spirit that refuses to submit. She is hailed as the first feminist, a hero who stood up to the patriarchy of Adam and God. But do not be deceived by the marketing. The packaging has changed, but the product is still poison. The spirit of Lilith is the spirit of rebellion against the natural order of the family. Remember her vow at the Red Sea. She swore to attack the children. Look at the state of the world today. The traditional family unit is crumbling faster than ever before. The sacred bond between mother and child is being severed. We live in a society that normalizes the termination of the unborn, framing it as the ultimate form of freedom. In ancient times, they sacrificed children to idols like Moloch in the valley of Gehenna. Today, the rituals look different, but the spiritual result is the same. It is the sacrifice of the next generation on the altar of convenience and self. It is the fulfillment of Lilith's ancient curse. She has returned to finish what she started in the garden. She wants a world where self is God. She wants a world where there is no hierarchy, no submission, and no divine order. She offers you power. She offers you the same thing she offered Eve. You shall be as gods. But the price of this freedom is the destruction of your lineage. The file on Lilith is now open. You know who she is, you know where she came from, and you know that she is active right now, influencing the culture, the media, and perhaps even the laws of your land. You must be vigilant. The spirit of Lilith is contagious. It is an ideology that whispers that you are a victim, that rebellion is a virtue, and that the family is a prison. Guard your mind. Guard your home. Do not let the night terror find a place of rest under your roof. This investigation is just the beginning. Lilith is not the only entity that was erased from the history books. There are other dark goddesses, other fallen watchers, and other ancient secrets that the gatekeepers do not want you to know. We are going to expose them all, one by one. If you want to be part of this investigation, and if you are brave enough to face the truth that others are afraid to speak, click the subscribe button now. Turn on notifications. You need to be ready for what we uncover next. The archives are open. I will see you in the next file.